Hey guys, Darren Bennett here of AndWorld Design, and today we're just going to be continuing our series on setting up our comic book template. And as I mentioned in our last video, we're going to be able to add our layered balloons today. Basically, we'll be ending up with balloons in these shapes, and they'll be set up over multiple layers. I know there are differences of opinion of whether or not to use layered balloons or single layer balloons, but personally and for my studio, we use the layers method. So that's what I'll be showing you guys today. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is how these balloons are structured. You can see we've set up the top balloons, the tail layer, and the balloons layer. So if I select one of these balloons here on the top balloons layer, you can see that I just have the fill selected. Let me move that over so you can see it. This outline indicates that there's only a fill on this layer. Then when I select the balloons layer, we see that we have a black fill and a black stroke with a stroke of 2 points. The stroke is aligned to the center. So that's what we'll be doing today, just setting up these balloons over multiple layers, and what that allows me to do is to quickly connect these balloons. You can see this sort of snowman style without having to use any of the Pathfinder tools. I find it a little bit more convenient for my process. Your mileage may vary depending on what you're familiar with, but I do personally recommend this method as I found it to be a lot faster in my line of work. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we'll do is to have just the fill set up and select the ellipse tool and make sure that we're on the top balloons layer. And we're just going to create an oval shape similar to the one I have here. Alright, once you have that, you can copy it. If you go under the edit menu, it's Command C, and then copy that. And what you'll do is to paste in back. So that's going to be Command B on your keyboard. I use a lot of quick keys, and so you can see me fumbling around up here because I usually don't remember where they are at in the menu, but my hand just knows better than I do. So I'm just going to hit Command B on my keyboard. And right now we have two. You can't see them because they're stacked up, but we have two of the balloons here. And so I'm just going to select this little icon here, this little marker, this square marker here, and click on it and just drag it down to the balloons layer. So that indicates that I now have a copy of our initial balloon down on the balloons layer. Now if I click on D, what happens is that I have a white fill and a black stroke now on my copy. I'm going to bump that stroke up to 2 so that we have a similar line weight, a thicker line weight that's pretty standard for most comics. It's about a 1 point stroke, and usually what I do is to make the fill black as well. So I'm just going to drag this black stroke into the fill, and now we should have the two colors on our bottom balloon. So here we have this basic balloon shape, and I like to use something a little less run-of-the-mill, so we're going to create copies of this balloon and just differentiate them a little bit by playing with the handles. So what we'll do is create a copy. I just hit Command C and Command V to create a copy of my balloon, and make sure that you have Paste Remembers Layers on. If you have Paste Remembers Layers on, it's going to maintain the separate layers. Otherwise, they might collect into to the wrong layer. So right now, anytime I make a copy, it maintains the top balloons and the bottom balloons. And if I had more objects selected, they would also remain on the layer. So that's something to keep in mind as you're working on the layer method. So with this copy, what we'll do is to select this quadrant. I'm just using the direct selection tool and just dragging within this quadrant between these 2 points. And what I'll do is use my arrow key and push up. And that gives me a little bit more curvature in here. And we'll do the same on each of the other 4 quadrants. Okay. So once you have that, make another copy, and you can do the same thing. All right, and for this last one, we can do one more. Gives it more of a rectangular shape. I'll just pull this up just a tad. And so now we have 4 distinct balloons with different shapes that we can use in our document. All right, so there you have it. And anytime that you want to create a balloon, you just create that copy, put it where your text will be, and after you've set up all your balloons, you can go into the tail layer and create a tail and add each of them as needed. Adding a tail on its own separate layer so that it can be moved over whichever balloon that you like without having to undo a pathfinder selection or anything like that. It's really flexible, gives you a little bit of mobility when you're copying and pasting, and if there are any changes, you can quickly do those on the fly. And if you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments section. I'll be glad to answer. But that's how we're going to set up our balloons. You can leave them on the pasteboard of the document so they can be quickly accessed later on. That'll be it for now. Stay tuned for how to add our issue information to the pasteboard as well.